Hi all, welcome to Daily Current Affairs and Reason. Today we'll be discussing a news from yesterday regarding the meeting between Jaishankar and UN Chief Guterres, which we couldn't discuss yesterday due to paucity of time. This news is important because of the two important bodies that it discusses, which is ISA and CDRI, International Solar Alliance and Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. These are two initiatives which have shown that India can take on a global leadership role in climate change matters. So I'll be going into their details from the prelims perspective. International Solar Alliance is a treaty-based intergovernmental organization which came into being in November 2016 at Marrakesh as part of Marrakesh Climate Change Conference. The aim, it's pretty obvious, to promote solar energy to reduce dependence on fossil fuels. Membership was initially restricted to the tropical countries lying within Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. However, it has later been expanded to other countries who can join as well. However, one thing you have to note is these other countries outside of Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn don't get voting rights. Only states within Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, only members within Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn have voting rights. Okay, Secretariat is at Gurugram, and center has also instituted various awards, solar awards. You can look into the details. Vishweshwarya Award, Kalpana Chawla Award, and Dibakar Award under ISA. Couple of other important initiatives at global level include Global Solar Atlas, One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative. Both of these have been undertaken in cooperation with World Bank. So you can read more about it. The next important topic, important diplomatic initiative by India regarding climate change has been Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. It is a multi-stakeholder global partnership involving national governments, UN agencies, multilateral development banks, etc. And it was launched by our Prime Minister in 2019. Again, its aim is to promote resilience of new and existing infrastructure to climate and disaster risk. Its secretariat is located in New Delhi. Its need arises primarily from the need to implement Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. It comes up in news often because of the annual conference, which is International Conference on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which happens on an annual basis. Another important thing is that it complements the ISA really well, and both of these initiatives have made sure that India is seen as a global leader in leading policy matters and actions regarding climate change. So both of these are very important from that perspective. Okay, and even from Main's perspective, questions regarding leadership role in climate change can be important, where you have to be prepared from this angle. Okay, moving on. Okay, coming to the second topic. The second topic that we are discussing today is regarding coastal erosion. This was in news because Kerala CM has asked Centre to consider notifying coastal erosion as a disaster. Now, in this context, what are the things that you have to prepare from prelims and mains perspective? We have to know what are notified disasters. Notified disasters are those disasters that are covered under the SDRF as per MHA notification. So only for these disasters you can spend from SDRF, directly spend from SDRF. SDRF is the State Disaster Response Fund. Okay. Now, another important thing that has been in current affairs recently is COVID-19 has been recently included as a notified disaster by MHA. And this is another important thing. Who does it? MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, recently included COVID-19 as a notified disaster. Now, about SDRF. SDRF is State Disaster Response Fund. It has been constituted as per Disaster Management Act 2005, and you should know that center contributes 75% of the total fund of SDRF, and it is categorized as a public account under reserve fund. Okay, what are the other important things here? The fund share of SDRF to states is decided. The total amount that is to be disbursed under SDRF is decided by the Finance Commission. Another important thing here is, other than the centrally notified disasters, which I already read here, states can also notify their own disasters. These are referred to as locally notified disasters, and states can spend up to 10% of their SDRF. They can spend up to 10% of their SDRF on the state notified disaster. SDRF fund can be used only for immediate relief and cannot be used for compensating victims or compensating crops or other losses during the disaster. Like other public and other government accounts, it is audited by CAG. Two important omissions that are often discussed in this context. Omissions from centrally notified disasters are heat waves and lightning. And heat wave is all the more important because cold wave is included as a notified disaster, but heat wave is not. And lightning, as we have discussed already, central coastal erosion or coastal submergence is not included, and lightning is also not included. See, other than this, from this, a parallel study can go to Disaster Management Act, wherein you have to study the ministry, which we have already discussed. Funds, a lot of funds. It discusses NDRF, SDRF, and then it also discusses the National Disaster Mitigation Fund. You can read more about it. Then authorities, again, three-tier authorities: NDMA, SDMA, and DDMA. You can read more about it yourself. Okay. Okay, this was one of the editorials today about the new information technology IT rules that the center has promulgated. So I'll be discussing its major provisions and issues. These are important both from the prelims and mains perspective. The aim of these rules have been primarily to regulate social media, digital media, and OTT platforms. It has various benign provisions such as removal of non-consensual intimate pictures within 24 hours of a complaint, publication of compliance reports to increase transparency. All the social media intermediaries will have to label their content or categorize their content into advertised, owned, yeah, otherwise sponsored content. So they have to label their content according to their nature. The rules also specify a code of ethics for all the digital media and OTT platforms in India. Another important provision of the IT rules is the grievance redressal mechanism that it seeks in the social media sector. It seeks a three-tier grievance redressal mechanism, including grievance redressal officer in the organization concerned, and if the grievance is not settled therein, it can be escalated to self-regulatory body of the sector, such as if we are discussing digital news, it will be escalated to, say, Press Council of India, and if it is not resolved even there, it will be further escalated to an interministerial oversight committee, which will be constituted by the government for this purpose. The removal of any information uh, that the Secretary of Ministry of Information and Broadcasting designates or courts designate, any such information has to be removed from the site or platform within 36 hours of notification. Now, this has been one of the major issues and debated because it gives a lot of arbitrary power to the Secretary of MOIB, and it can also be misused for removing content that criticizes government, and it is also problematic because it does not give any chance of a fair recourse on the platform, on the part of the platform or the site. Another issue which can arise is the numerous functionaries that these rules impose. As we have discussed already, it imposes the appointment of a grievance redressal officer. Then there are other couple of officers such as compliance officer. Then there is a resident nodal officer. So from the startup perspective, for a small startup venture, all this could lead to a huge compliance burden issue, increasing the cost of the startup. That is another issue. Then you have very important provision. First originator of information. Government seeks to know the first originator of information from the social media intermediaries, which would necessitate the tracking of messages. Now, this is problematic and due to two things. One, most of the social media chats that we have, such as WhatsApp or Telegram, they are uh, end-to-end encrypted and cannot be read by the intermediary or any third party. So it would pose a huge tech issue. And even if it is solved somehow, wherein this originator of information can be found, then it would pose a serious privacy issue because it could pose a serious privacy issue on the part of a person who is trying to have a private conversation with another person. And this could also be challenged under the uh, Puttasamy case, where Supreme Court ruled that right to privacy is a fundamental right of every individual. Okay. Another term that the news article uses, and which is important for you to understand, is colorable legislation. Colorable legislation basically refers to a legislation which a legislature tries to indirectly do, which it cannot directly do. So any legislation wherein a legislature is trying to do something which it cannot do directly can be referred to as a colorable legislation, and is it can be challenged in court. In this case, the issue here is we are discussing Information Technology Act 2002 rules. However, digital media is not covered under this IT Act, and therefore it can be contended that covering of digital media within IT rules is an example of it can be cited as a colorable legislation, which is open to debate. Okay, that's all from this news. Moving on. Another important news that has is the renaming of Indian Broadcasting Federation into Indian Broadcasting and Digital Foundation. IBF, or Indian Broadcasting Federation, is the APEC body of broadcasters, which will bring broadcasters and OTT platforms under one roof. IBDF is also about to form a self-regulatory body, Digital Media Content Regulatory Council, specifically for regulating self-regulation of the OTT platforms. IBF is a parent organization for the Broadcasting Content Complaints Council (BCCC), which redresses all complaints relating to all non-news general entertainment channels. See, it is the reason you have to study these bodies from the prelims perspective is UPSC has a habit of asking such institutions and bodies, as is evident from a question that was asked few years back, uh, uh, which was based on Quality Council of India. Anyway, that's all from today. We'll meet you with further questions tomorrow. Thank you.